Now, Mike, you ready for me to go? Tell me when. Okay. The Yankees came to Baldwin, they came upon the rear. They thought they'd find old Abner, but old Abner was not there. So lay $10 down, or 20 if you choose, for I can whoop the Yankee who stole old Abner's shoes. Jeff Davis was a gentleman, Jeff Davis was no fool. Jeff Davis rode a dapple gray and Abe Lincoln rode a mule. So lay $10 down, or 20 if you choose, for I can lick the Yankee who stole old Abner's shoes. The Yankees took me prisoner, they used me rough, it's true. They took from me my knapsack, they stole my blanket too. So lay $10 down, or 20 if you choose, for I can take the hide off a Yankee who stole old Abner's shoes. So lay $10 down, or 20 if you choose, for I can whoop the Yankee who stole old Abner's shoes. You ask me why I sadly weep, why I, like others, am not gay. What makes the tears flow down my cheek from early morn to close of day? And so my story you will hear, for in my memory fresh it dwells. 'Twill cause you all to drop a tear on the grave of my sweet Katie Wells. The birds were singing in the morning, the roses and the ivy were in bloom. The sun o'er the hilltops was dawning when we laid sweet Katie in her tomb. Now, Johnny House was born and raised in North Carolina. Johnny House turned 16 years of age in 1864. And his dad said, okay, you can go. He joined the Confederate Army in the North Carolina Regiment. He was shipped immediately to Fort Fisher. Fort Fisher was guarding Wilmington, the harbor at Wilmington. And when he went in, there were 2 harbors left open to Confederacy. In the whole Confederacy, there were 2, Wilmington and Mobile. In August of 64, Mobile falls. You just have Wilmington left, and Fort Fisher is all the more important. You got Union gunboats all in the harbor, and they're just lobbing shells constantly. And you got Sherman coming up from South Carolina with 125,000 or so effectives. Each one of them have those guns. They said they load them on Sunday and fire them all week, you know. And he said, and so eventually Fort Fisher falls, as it must. I mean, there's no way they could stand up against it. But when Johnny House got to be a very old man, apparently he was an incredible, incredible storyteller. And people used to get him to tell the story. And he'd stand up and he'd say, like, you know, people think the reason that Fort Fisher fell when it did in 65 was because of all those Yankee vessels out there in the harbor bombing us. That wasn't it. So a lot of people think it was because Sherman's coming up from behind us with 125,000 effectives to take Fort Fisher. That wasn't what did it. He said, I'll tell you what happened to Fort Fisher, because I was there and I saw it. Some Johnny Reb in between shellings got up on the parapet, put his gun down, and he sang Katie Wells. And when they finished singing Katie Wells, every Johnny Reb in Fort Fisher put his gun down to wipe his eyes, and that's when the Yankees made their attack. He said, that's exactly what happened. I was there. I saw it. And so when I read that little account of that old Confederate veteran, Johnny House, I said, I'm going to find that song. And this is that song. My memory recalls the way we wandered through the woodland dells. I kissed her cheek and named the day when I would marry Katie Wells. But death came to her cabin door and stole from me my joy and pride. And when I knew we were no more, well, I laid down my banjo and cried. The birds were singing in the morning, the roses and the ivy were in bloom. The sun o'er the hilltops was dawning when we laid sweet Katie in her tomb. Oh, thank you, dear people. It's such a delight to be here. I got to thank Dr. Don Livingston for getting me up here. And Brian, it's so good to see you again, man. It's just a delight. And I want to thank Mike for doing sound for me. And lights. It's a joke. Anyway, it's just a delight to be with you. And what I want to do is honestly cover just some different types of tunes that sustained our Southern ancestors during this incredible bad time. And, you know, if you think about it, music, well, we don't think about music much because we take it for granted. We really do. You think about that. First thing you do when you get in the car is punch your music on. And then you get in an elevator, music. You go to the doctor's office, music. And you go to the department store, music. Yeah, I mean, everywhere we're just bombarded with it. I mean, I remember the other night we went to see the Alabama Symphony play the Beethoven Violin Concerto, and it was fantastic, and I played on the way home in the car. But now in 1860s, you can't do that. You can't do that. If you want music, you got to make it yourself, or you got to hang with somebody that can play. And everybody sang. You sang. You know, and there's one thing, music has always been used by civilizations to say this is who we are, this is what we believe, this is our history, here's our heroes. And songs, it's easier to remember songs as opposed to the spoken word. That's been proven and proven and proven. So music is so very important on so many levels. Now, and in two, if you're a Southern soldier, well, a Yankee soldier for that matter, but if you're a soldier and you're in the ranks and you're miserable, you're so homesick you can taste it. And you're scared a little bit, and this is just not what it was supposed to be. I mean, you can't talk about that because it's not manly. But you can sing about it. And that's exactly what happened during this 4 years. It truly is. This is when the music industry in the United States got its legs. Because it's been estimated that as many as 3,000 songs were written, published, and offered for sale on sheets in the North. 3,000 titles in 4 years. That's amazing. And there were about 1,000 in the South, and of course would have been more. But early in the war, you know, you lose New Orleans and Memphis and Nashville all fall, and so there goes potential music sources there. But music is that important. You know, when the armies are moving, when they stop, the campfires come up, and so does the music. I mean, it's just the way it is. So what I'd like to do is just present some tunes that I just happen to love. There's just too many great ones. We're going to skip a lot of good ones, but we got to start with a song that's actually written by a fella from Ohio. His name was Daniel Emmett, Uncle Dan, and he wrote a song as a walk-around tune. You'd think that the song is Dixie, and Dixie would have been actually premiered in the South, in a large city like Charleston or Atlanta or whatever. No, it was premiered in New York City in 1859. And, of course, South Carolina didn't secede to, December of the next year. So, but anyway, his words dealt with a man who married a woman because she had money. And that's a lousy fight song for a new nation. So the fellow named Albert Pike from Arkansas penned the words that soldiers in the ranks took a liking to. And this is what he called Everybody's Dixie. less worse than death befall you. Two arms, two arms, two arms in Dixie. Though all the beacon fires are lighted, let all hearts be now united. Two arms, two arms, two arms in Dixie. Advance the flag of Dixie, hoorah, hoorah. For Dixie's land will take our stand, live or die for Dixie. Two arms, and conquer peace for Dixie. Two arms, and conquer peace for Dixie. Oh, hear the northern thunders mutter, northern flags and south winds flutter. Two arms, two arms, two arms in Dixie. Send them back your fierce defiance, stamp upon the cursed alliance. Two arms, two arms, two arms in Dixie. Advance the flag of Dixie, hoorah, hoorah. For Dixie's land will take our stand, to live or die for Dixie. Two arms, and conquer peace for Dixie. Two arms, and conquer peace for Dixie. Oh, fear no danger, shun no labor, lift up rifle, pike, and saber. Two arms, two arms in Dixie. Shoulder pressing close to shoulder, let the odds make each heart bolder. Two arms, two arms in Dixie. Advance the flag of Dixie, hoorah, hoorah. For Dixie's land will take our stand, to live or die for Dixie. Two arms, and conquer peace for Dixie. Two arms, and conquer peace for Dixie. Advance the flag of Dixie, hoorah, hoorah. For Dixie's land will take our stand, to live or die for Dixie. Two arms, and conquer peace for Dixie. Two arms, and conquer peace for Dixie. Here, here. Thank you so much. Now most of the patriotic tunes were written early in the war. And, you know, there were just hundreds and hundreds of great patriotic tunes. It's amazing how many great tunes there are. But I'm just going to do two patriotic ones and move on. But you got to do the Bonnie Blue Flag, because these were the big two. I can remember reading a letter from just an old private soldier home, and he talked about, he said, in the letter he said, you know, Dixie, we all love Dixie, but it's more the officer's song, the way we look at it. He said, our song is a Bonnie Blue Flag. We just love that song, and this song did more to rally the Southern soldier than any other song, I really believe. There's a fellow named Harry McCarthy who took a song called The Irish Jaunting Car. That's what the books say. That's what the historians say. But now I've heard the Irish Jaunting Car, and I'll be doggone if I can hear it in this tune. But anyway, this is called the Bonnie Blue Flag. Harry McCarthy, the Arkansas comedian and entertainer, wrote this. And as a state would secede, they would work their way into a verse. And a lot of you probably already know this, because I know I'm preaching to the choir somewhat. But the neat part about this, it was first premiered in New Orleans at a place called the Academy of Music, where they would offer entertainments or live performance. And there just happened to be, on the week that Harry McCarthy was introducing this song, premiering this song, there was a bunch of Texas soldiers who were coming through town, heading to what would be First Manassas. That place is it in the war. And they came to the concert, a bunch of them, and they loved this song so much they started raising Cain and hollering and hooping and, you know, just going crazy, that somebody called the New Orleans cops and said there's a riot at the academy, at the music academy. So they came in. That big old battle royal took place inside the academy when the cops arrived. And so, you know, that tells you right there, this must be a pretty good fight song. First time it's ever been played, they got to fight. But it's called the Bonnie Blue Flag. I'm playing an old 19th century guitar and an old-timey tuning for the Bonnie Blue Flag. are a band of brothers and native to the soil, fighting for our liberty with treasure, blood, and toil. And when our rights are threatened, the cry rose near and far, hurrah for the bonny blue flag that bears a single star. Hurrah, hurrah for Southern rights, hurrah, rally around the bonny blue flag that bears a single star. Hurrah, hurrah for Southern rights, hurrah, rally around the bonny blue flag that bears a single star. As long as the Union was faithful to her trust, like friends and like brethren, kind were we and just. But now when northern treachery attempts our rights to mar, we hoist on high the bonny blue flag that bears a single star. Hurrah, hurrah for Southern rights, hurrah, hurrah for the bonny blue flag that bears a single star. Hurrah, hurrah for Southern rights, hurrah, rally around the bonny blue flag that bears a single star. Here's to our Confederacy, strong we are and brave. Like patriots of old, we'll fight our heritage to save. And rather than submit to shame to die, we would prefer. So cheer for the bonny blue flag that bears a single star. Hurrah, hurrah for Southern rights, hurrah, hurrah for the bonny blue flag that bears a single star. Hurrah, hurrah for Southern rights, hurrah, rally around the bonny blue flag that bears a single star. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. By the way, the bonny blue, from my understanding, the first time it showed up was in the Florida territories, which stretched from like Jacksonville, Florida, all the way over to New Orleans in the earliest days. And it later, it's the blue flag with a one white star in the center. It shows up in Texas when they're going for independence from Mexico. And so it got to be a flag of independence, basically, and that's why it was adopted in the period of time between when the Confederacy was formed and the Congress, Confederate Congress, adapted the first stars and bars. The bonny blue was the unofficial flag of Southland, and that's the importance of it. Now, moving on now, we humans wouldn't do a lot of things we do if we knew how bad it was going to be. So that's the reason we go into things, with high hopes and a good heart and willing to do whatever's necessary. And I'm sure most wars are that way. In every hamlet and community in this country, this scene was played out. The states, individual states had to raise the armies because basically your state was your country, basically. And it was a wonderful scene in America. You're talking about Americana. It was an exciting time to be a young man because when you joined the Army in the 1860s, around 1860 and 61, when you joined the Army, you went with your brothers, your cousins, your schoolmates. You went with your uncles. Sometimes your old dad went with you, or the storekeeper, or the guy holding the farm next to yours. But you all came together and joined the Army and formed a company, which was the nucleus of the Army. And it was really exciting in the early days because you stayed in the community as a young man, and you got to learn to be a soldier. You're going through, learning how to do all of this sort of thing, and the young ladies are coming out and watch you strut your stuff, so it's pretty sweet. That's pretty good. But, and you're comfortable because you know everybody in the Army. You grew up with them, what have you. But here comes the orders from on high to leave the community and go to the larger army somewhere into, of course, obviously it's an uncertain future. And this scene was played out, I guarantee, in this city right here in which we're standing. But the company forms up on the day they're going to leave the community. Moms and dads come out, and brothers and sisters, and everything. In fact, the whole town comes out to celebrate their boys going off to war. And the politicians will get up and bloviate, the way politicians can bloviate. And when they're done, then the ladies present their handmade colors for their boys to take to war. Touches me. It's awesome. And then the company commander will get up and make a speech of bravado, says, we'll bring this flag back intact or we're not coming back at all. And then they right face and they march out of the community down the road. And the tears were just flowing everywhere. I mean, they truly were. Unashamedly, they're just crying. But in the ranks as well, it was the same thing was going on. And during this time, you'd be amazed at how many songwriters got busy and started writing songs about leaving home. Some of the most touching. You can hear we can do this, and you can hear they have not a clue what's in front of them, but that's what we do. But this first one is just called The Young Volunteer. Our flag is unfurled and our arms flash bright as the sun wakes up the sky. But ere I join the doubtful fight, lovely maid, I would say goodbye. I'm a young volunteer and my heart is true to our flag that woos the wind. Then 3 cheers for our flag and our Southland too, and the girls we leave behind. Then adieu, 'tis the last bugle strain that is falling on the ear. Should it so be decreed that we'd ne'er meet again, oh, remember the young volunteer. When o'er the desert through burning rays with a heavy heart I tread, for when I breast the cannon's blaze and bemoan my comrades dead, then I will think of my home, and you and our flag shall kiss the wind. With huzzah for our cause and our Southland too, and the girls we leave behind. Then adieu, 'tis the last bugle strain that is falling on the ear. Should it so be decreed that we ne'er meet again, oh, remember the young volunteer. Isn't that nice? 2 more. I'm going to share with you one that I just fell in love with. This song was actually not published, and it was never offered for sale on sheet music. It was handed down through the oral tradition from parents to kids. This song was sung in the mountainous areas of the Southland, and it was written and made up at the time that young boys were going off to fight. And we'll just call it the Southern Soldier. I'll place my knapsack on my back, my rifle on my shoulder. I'll march away to the firing line and kill that Yankee soldier. I'll bid farewell to my wife and my child, farewell to my aged mother, and go and join in the bloody strife till this cruel war is over. If I am shot on the battlefield and I should not recover, oh, who will protect my wife and my child and care for my aged mother? And if our Southern cause is lost, Southern rights denied us, we'll be ground beneath the tyrant's heel for our demands of justice. If I must die for my home and land, my spirit will not falter. Oh, here's my heart, and here's my hand upon my country's altar. Then heaven be with us in the strife, be with the Southern soldier. We'll drive the mercenary horde beyond our southern border. We'll drive the mercenary horde beyond our southern border. You were going to the wars, Willie Boy, Willie Boy. You were going to the wars far away to protect our rights and laws, Willie Boy, Willie Boy, and our banner in the sun's golden ray. With your uniform all new and your shiny buttons too, you'll win the hearts of pretty girls, but none like me so true. Oh, won't you think of me, Willie Boy, Willie Boy, and won't you think of me when far away? I will often think of ye, Willie Boy, Willie Boy, and ever for your life and glory pray. You'll be fighting for the right, Willie Boy, Willie Boy. You'll be fighting for the right and your home, and you'll strike the blow with might, Willie Boy, Willie Boy, amid the thunder of the cannon and the drum. With an arm as true as steel, you'll make every foe band feel the vengeance of a southerner too tired to cringe or kneel. And should you fall in strife, Willie Boy, Willie Boy, and should you fall in strife on the plain, I will pine away my life, Willie Boy, Willie Boy, and never, never wear a smile again.
Thank you so much. I can't stress how many great songs there are, just like that, just great ones. The hardest thing in the world is to figure out which ones to cull when you're doing this program. I'm going to move to Campfires. You know, like I said, mentioned a while ago, if you could play it and you could carry it, you brought it. Because when the campfires pop up, here comes the music. And so there's just a few examples of campfire tunes. The first is based on the Confederate victory at First Manassas, and it's a cute little tune. And then another one, I'm going to go right into another one that was written in 1850 that was so huge, it was just so popular. It's called the Arkansas Traveler. Now, when you hear this song, this was written by a census taker. In the 1840s, or for the 1840 census, I guess he was counting in 1839, and his beat, you know, and when you look on a map, you have a little rectangle or square, and that's your beat. You're responsible for counting every person in that triangle. And this one fellow was in 1839. By the way, he was in the Ozark Mountains. That's where his beat was, of Arkansas. He's walking down a road on a rain. It's raining. I mean, it's raining. And he looks up on the hill and saw a cabin way up on that old hill up there because he's in the Ozark Mountains. And he asked somebody, said, does somebody live up there? He said, yeah, it's an old man. Said, anybody else? Said, I don't know. Oh. So he had to climb up there. So he climbs the hill. When he got up the top of the hill, that cabin there was an old man playing a fiddle. And his roof had a problem, but it didn't bother him much at all. So that's the second tune we're going to do. The first one, let's go to First Manassas. I come from old Manassas with a pocket full of fun. I shot 40 Yankees with a single barrel gun. But it don't make a difference whether you or I. Big Yankee, little Yankee, all run or die. I saw all the Yankees at Bull Run. They fought like the devil when the battle first begun. But it don't make a difference to neither you nor I. They took to their heels. Boys, you ought to seen them fly.
I saw Alabama in the middle of the storm. She stood like a giant in the contest so warm. But it don't make a nifus difference to neither you nor I. Alabama fought the Yankees. Boys, root, hog, or die. This song had 27 verses. That's all I'm going to do. Once upon a time in Arkansas, an old man sat at his little cabin door and fiddled at a tune that he liked to hear. Jolly old tune that he played by ear. It was raining hard, but the fiddler didn't care. He sawed away at a popular air, though his roof tree leaked like a waterfall. Didn't seem to bother the man at all. A traveler was riding by that day and stopped to hear him a-practicing away. His cabin was afloat, his feet were wet. Still the old man didn't seem to fret, so the stranger says, now the thing is to me, better mend your roof, said he. But the old man says as he played away, couldn't mend it now, it's a rainy day. The traveler replied, that's all quite true, but this, I think, is a thing for you to do. Get busy on a day that is warm and bright. Patch the old roof till she's good and tight. But the old man kept on a-playing at his reel. Tapped the ground with his leathery heel. Get along, says he, for you give me a pain. My cabin never leaks when it does not rain. There you go. There's a... And I guess this is probably, my dad told me about being lonesome and depressed and all that kind of thing in World War II, and that's just a general theme among most soldiers. And one of the questions was, did they miss me at home? Did they miss me at all? Did they ever think about me? I mean, I'm out here just slogging along here and going through all of this, and do they ever think about me? And there was a song that's written in 1852, Carolyn A. Mason. Atherton was her middle name. That's a good Southern name, and Atherton. Carolyn Atherton Mason wrote these words. In 1852, and S.M. Grannis wrote this music. And then the title of the thing is, Do They Miss Me at Home? This song was huge in the ranks. It truly was. Do they miss me at home? Do they miss me? 'Twould be an assurance most dear to know that this moment some loved one were saying, I wish he were here. To feel that the group at the fireside were thinking of me as I roam. Oh yes, 'twould be joy beyond measure to know that they miss me at home, to know that they miss me at home. Do they set me a chair at the table when the evening's home pleasures are nigh? When candles are lit in the parlor and the stars in the calm azure sky, and when the good nights are repeated and lay them down to their sleep, do they think of my absence and waft me a whispered good night while they weep, a whispered good night while they weep? Do they miss me at home? Do they miss me at morning, at noon, or at night? And lingers one gloomy shade round them that only my presence can light? Are joys less invitingly welcome and pleasures less hailed than before? Because one is missed from the circle, because I am with them no more, because I am with them no more. That's touching, isn't it? You know, one thing about these tunes, they gets right to the heart. I mean, it goes right to the whole soldier. You can see now why they could sing that. They couldn't say that. They get beat up on the playground, you know. There's an unusual tune I want to present. In 1856, there's a guy named William Steffi who was a Sunday school teacher. And he wrote a song to be performed at a camp meeting. Now,
camp meetings are what we call revivals today. They would last several days because transportation was so hard back then. You're not going to travel 2 or 3 days to go to an hour church service and head back to the house. You're just not going to do that. So they would stay for days at a time, and you'd have a lot of preaching and a whole lot of singing. Well, William Steffi wrote this tune to be sung at a camp meeting in the Southland, and it took some twists and turns, but this is the original. This is the Southern song. Say, brothers, will you meet us? Say, brothers, will you meet us? Say, brothers, will you meet us on Canaan's happy shore? Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Forever, evermore. By the grace of God we'll meet you. By the grace of God we'll meet you. By the grace of God we'll meet you where parting is no more. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Forever, evermore. Jesus lives and reigns forever. Jesus lives and reigns forever. Jesus lives and reigns forever on Canaan's happy shore. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Forever, evermore. One of my favorites. This is absolutely one of my favorites because it's written by a common soldier. And, there's a fellow named, in the early part of the war, in February of 62, there's a fellow named Grant that came down to Middle Tennessee and kicked up a fuss and captured a couple of forts, which opened up Nashville, and the South lost Nashville. And then but it had been since, if you think about it, the first battle was July of 1861, July 21 to be exact. And you go to October, and nothing else has happened major. And, the Union Army is still below Washington, and the Southern boys are watching them below there. And then you get to, August, and you got August. That's one in September, October, November, December. Go through Christmas time. 5 months have passed and nothing major's happened. So maybe a lot of people in this country are thinking maybe this thing is, not going to get much worse, and maybe the politicians are going to work something out, and, where the South will be able to exist, and yada, yada, yada. Well, they get into January, same story. 6 months have passed. And that's when February hit, when Grant was doing his mischief at Fort Donelson and Fort Henry. And then 7 months have passed. But that didn't affect many folks. I mean, it had a great effect on the war itself, but as far as the families and the folks, they didn't, lose a whole, it was a small affair. Well, Grant goes over at a place called Pittsburgh Landing on the Tennessee River. It's a lovely spot. You can stand up there. If you've not been there, it's worth a trip. You can see the Tennessee. This is one place where the Tennessee comes downstream, but then it turns and heads north, and it's still going downstream. That's in the western hemisphere or northern hemisphere. That doesn't happen. Except there. Anyhow, but he's there gathering an army because you see Corinth, Mississippi is just south by about 25 miles or so. And Corinth is a place where two sets of railroad tracks come together. They call it the crossroads. And he's there to capture Corinth and destroy the railroad because that's going to have a bad effect on the communications of the Southland. And General Johnston, Albert Sidney Johnston, knows what Grant's about. So he's got his army there defending Corinth, and so he starts pulling in men, and he's going to know that Grant is waiting on some about 30 to 36,000 men to come out of Kentucky And then Grant's stepping off, and he knows he said, I better hit him now before he gets reinforced. Well, so he moves out, and it should have taken a day and a half, but it took 3 because of the mud and the rain and everything, and they're just not an army yet. They're just a well-intentioned patriotic mob of Southern young people, mean to do well, but they're not an army yet. Anyway, they attack on the 6th of April. It's effective. It rolls up the Union Army. They're falling back towards Pittsburgh Landing and the Tennessee River. They got their backs to the river. This thing's going quite well for the South, and it's looking good for them. And then there's one place over there, they eventually call it the Hornet's Nest, it's by the peach orchard. And so General Johnston knows that the attack is lagging right there. The Prentiss is holding pretty good on the other side. And so he goes over to help direct the attacks, and does so quite successfully until a bullet goes right behind his knee. I mean, then it stung him, but it didn't hurt too bad. I'm okay. He kept directing the battle. And the whole time his big boot is filling with blood, and when it fills up, he falls off his horse dead because he bled to death. En route, he's such a nice man. He had seen 2 wounded Union officers. He asked his personal physician to help those 2 poor fellows, which he did do because the general told him to. And he falls over dead, and a simple tourniquet would have saved his life. A Boy Scout could have done it, but the doctor wasn't there. Anyway, the Hornet's Nest falls. The Confederates get taken over by General Beauregard. Said, we'll finish them tomorrow. We need to reorganize. And that night he is reinforced by those people from Kentucky. And then the Grant is reinforced. And the South makes their attack. They're stopped and pushed back. They go all the way back to Corinth, Mississippi, from whence they started. Grant did not follow because they were too bloodied. Because you see, in 2 days of fighting, 23,800 men killed, wounded, missing. 23,800 men. Can you imagine? It's just the country was stunned. This thing is spun out of control. Put that in perspective. If these men, I'm talking about Confederates and Union alike, were to rise up somehow and form a line shoulder to shoulder, which was the custom of the day. Once they form their line, if you decide to walk from the beginning to the very end of that line, you're going to walk for 6 miles, staring in the face of young people that are casualties at Shiloh. This was incredible. It wasn't supposed to be this way. So the soldiers dealt with it by singing. And one of them was M.B. Smith from Texas. He was in Company C, 2nd Texas. When they got back to Corinth, when all the sights and sounds and fears and smells were fresh in his mind, he sat down and wrote this tune. Come, all ye valiant soldiers, a story I will tell about the bloody battle that was fought on Shiloh Hill. It was an awful struggle, it'll cause your blood to chill. It was the famous battle that was fought on Shiloh Hill. It was the 6th of April, just at the break of day. The drums and fifes were playing for us to march away. The feeling of that hour I do remember still, for the wounded and the dying that lay on Shiloh Hill. Hey, about the hour of sunrise that battle it began. Before the day had vanished, we had fought them hand to hand. The horrors of that field did my heart with anguish fill, for the wounded and the dying that lay on Shiloh Hill. There were men from every nation laid on those bloody plains. Fathers, sons, and brothers were numbered with the slain, that has caused so many homes with deep mourning to be filled, all from that awful battle that was fought on Shiloh Hill. The wounded men were crying for help from everywhere, while others who were dying were offering God their prayer. Protect my wife and children, if it is thy holy will. Such were the prayers I heard that night on bloody Shiloh Hill.
And early the next morning we were called to arms again, unmindful of the wounded and unmindful of the slain. The struggle was renewed and 10,000 men were killed. This was the second conflict at the famous Shiloh Hill. The battle, it raged on, though dead and dying men lay thick all o'er the ground, o'er the hill and on the glen. And from their deadly wounds their blood ran like a rill. Such were the awful sights I saw on bloody Shiloh Hill. Before the day was ended, the battle ceased to roar. Thousands of brave soldiers had fell to rise no more. They left their vacant ranks for some other ones to fill, and now their moldering bodies all lie on Shiloh Hill. And now my song is ended about those bloody plains. I hope the sight by mortal man may ne'er be seen again. But I pray to God, my Savior, if consistent with thy will, to save the souls of all who fell on bloody Shiloh Hill.
Just as an aside, since you guys love the academic part of all this, Shiloh was the most written about battle of all in song. You know, because as the war goes on, and you got later, you know, you've got Murfreesboro later in that year, and you got Kentucky in the summertime of '62, and you got Antietam or Sharpsburg up in the Eastern Theater and on, and Manassas, and they want to get away from this stuff. So after '62, they quit writing about battles, by and large. Believe it or not, as big as Gettysburg was with this 53,000 and all the missed opportunities for the southern side, it's not written about, and hardly at all, at least in song. Now, I want you to meet a fella. His name is Robert Riley Berry. He's from Alabama. He's a private soldier in the Army of Tennessee. In fact, I know two of his ancestors. But he was just a private. He didn't rise above private. But what's neat about Robert Riley Berry, he left a great reminiscence of the war. And he wrote this song. And he tells in his notes, he said, I wrote this song while sitting on a rock doing picket duty at Riddyville, Tennessee on December 13, 1862. That makes it pretty, narrows it right down there, doesn't it? Well, the cool part about this, you'll notice that Private Berry is very fond of his own abilities and skills and efforts, and he questions those of officers and the other men. And of course, the fairer sex tracks it. Okay, here we go. I love to be a soldier and fight for Southern wealth and help whip out the Yankees if I can have my health. I love to be a soldier and for my country fight if officers and privates would do their duty right. I love to be a soldier to whip the Yankees out and send them back to Lincolndom and turn them right about. I love to be a soldier, though a hard life it is, and harder still to listen to the many's deadly whiz. I love to be a soldier, though deprived of home and friends, for it becomes a patriot his country to defend. I love to be a soldier, for the Southern lovely fair hath bid us push our standard throughout the Southern air. I love to be a soldier and obey their gentle voice, though I prefer their company if I could have my choice. I love to be a soldier, though I am far from home, and the poor weary marcher has many miles to roam.
I love to be a soldier, my country to defend, and while I do keep able, helping hand I'll lend. And while I do keep able, my helping hand I'll lend. Robert Riley Bay, December 13, 18, and 62. One thing is we're talking about identifying the South as a country, a region held together by states that had a feeling for the other states, or just being the South. This is a wonderful, wonderful song that was written in 1863 by Charlie Wildwood. Music by John Hill Hewitt, who, by the way, is my favorite Southern songwriter of all. And this is very poetic. I met some really word people here. I'd rather get a root canal than have to write something myself, but I admire people that can write. And whoever wrote this, Charlie Wildwood, was a writer. But it embraces the South as the South. The bright rose of beauty unnurtured by art, and purity's lily doth thrive in thy heart. While honor hath crowned thee with glory's bright ray, and Flora hath decked thee with flowers of May. O beautiful South's cherished home of my birth, thou fairest there, loveliest land of the earth. My heart like the ivy still cling unto thee. O beautiful, beautiful land of the free, the South, my own beautiful South. Land of chivalry, home of liberty, fondly I love thee, dear land of the South, dear land of the South, dear land of the South. Dear liberty, virtue, and truth most sublime, the flowers that bloom in the sun-smiling clime, and those a base tyrant would crush to the earth, and mangle and bruise on the soil of thy birth. But thy free spirit still rides on the swift gale, like the eagle that sweeps o'er the mountain and dale, and thy sons they rush forth with the courage of men, to fight and to bleed and to conquer again. The South, my own beautiful South, land of chivalry, home of liberty, fondly I love thee, dear land of the South, dear land of the South, dear land of the South. The tyrant with shackles would manacle thee, would strangle thy spirit, dear land of the free, would trample the banner of right in the dust, and yoke thee with ire, proud queen of the just. But the hearts of thy sons unappalled by a fear, as their swords leap up fiercely and flame in the air, now swear it no never shall be, bright queen of the lovely sweet home of the free. The South, my own beautiful South, land of chivalry, home of liberty, fondly I love thee, dear land of the South, dear land of the South, dear land of the South. That was one of the earliest I found that really hammered home the South as a unit. There's allusions to my country in lots of songs, but that one really lays it out. I'm going to share with you a song that took me forever to find. I was in the John Pelham Historical Society as long as it was going, and there was a lady named Peggy Volksberger who lived up in Hampton, Virginia, and she was president of that organization. And I'd been looking for about 2 or 3 years to find John the Cavalry. Now, if you read a thing on Jeb Stuart, they always mention John the Cavalry. And I found out I knew the chorus and I knew the melody, but I didn't know the verses. And I talked to Peggy Volksberger a bunch back in those days, and one day I was talking to her, and she said, "What you working on?" I said, "Well, I'm trying to find that John the Cavalry." She said, "I don't know the chorus, but I got the verses." How about that? So, bingo, and we said, "Well, I got a deal for you, Peg," anyway. So this is John the Cavalry that was written about in every biography of General Jeb Stuart. Now, I don't know if you know, there was 4 fellows in headquarters staff. Jeb went and there was a fellow named Sam Sweeney, whose brother Joel is credited with inventing the 5-string banjo, adding the 5th string to the banjo. And he taught his brother Sam to play. And now I have heard that
that these two fellas, the Sweeney brothers, did a command performance for Queen Victoria in England on the new American instrument, the 5-string banjo. And I have not found any evidence of that, but I read that somewhere, and I can't prove it. But anyhow, I don't guess that matters, does it? But it's possible. Let's put it that way. Anyhow, but Harris von Bork was a German who was on the staff. He sang bass. Jeb Stewart sang baritone, and John Pelham sang tenor, and Sweeney sang the lead. And they had a little quartet, and they would sing around campfire. See, what happened, Jeb found that Sam Sweeney was in the Army, so he went and got him and made him a staff officer where he could have banjo music at headquarters. And there was this black fellow named Mulata Bob who could, great fiddler, but he could play bones in both hands and really get after it. And Jeb Stewart went and made him a staff officer where he could have this fun music around his campfire. And that's a true story. And anyway, they sat around and they concocted a tune to use to recruit people into the cavalry. And it's based on a 1862 successful raid up around Pennsylvania as the primary part. First part you'll know when they rode around McClellan. John the Cavalry. We're the boys who went around McClellan, went around McClellan, went around McClellan. We're the boys who went around McClellan. Bully boys, hey, bully boys, ho, if you want to have a good time. John the Cavalry, John the Cavalry, John the Cavalry, if you want to catch a devil, if you want to have fun, if you want to smell hell. John the Cavalry. We're the boys who crossed the Potomac, crossed the Potomac, crossed the Potomac. We're the boys who crossed the Potomac. Bully boys, hey, bully boys, ho, if you want to have a good time. John the Cavalry, John the Cavalry, John the Cavalry, if you want to catch the devil, if you want to have fun, if you want to smell hell. John the Cavalry. Then we went into Pennsylvania, went to Pennsylvania, went to Pennsylvania, and then we went into Pennsylvania. Bully boys, hey, bully boys, ho, if you want to have a good time. John the Cavalry, John the Cavalry, John the Cavalry, if you want to catch the devil, if you want to have fun, if you want to smell hell. John the Cavalry. Then the big fat Dutch gals hand around the breadium, hand around the breadium, hand around the breadium. The big fat Dutch gals hand around the breadium. Bully boys, hey, bully boys, ho, if you want to have a good time. John the Cavalry, John the Cavalry, John the Cavalry, if you want to catch the devil, if you want to have fun, if you want to smell hell. John the Cavalry. Oh, Joe Hooker, won't you come out of the wilderness? Come out of the wilderness, come out of the wilderness. Oh, Joe Hooker, won't you come out of the wilderness? Bully boys, hey, bully boys, ho, if you want to have a good time. John the Cavalry, John the Cavalry, John the Cavalry, if you want to catch the devil, if you want to have fun, if you want to smell hell. John the Cavalry, if you want to have a good time. John the Cavalry, John the Cavalry, John the Cavalry, if you want to catch the devil, if you want to have fun, if you want to smell hell. John the Cavalry. Now, my grandfather, John Riley Camp, God bless him, rest his soul, I was holding his hand when he died in 1984. He was my hero, smartest man I ever knew, though he didn't get past the 5th grade. Good old man, good old Southern man. He was a farmer and a barber. And he told me, he was a banjo player, by the way, and he got me started playing this old-timey stuff when I was a little kid. I've been doing this as long as I remember. And he told me, the first song he showed me, by the way, he learned this stroke that we talked about earlier. He learned this stroke from his dad, who learned from his dad, that's my great-great-grandpappy, who was in the Randolph County Guards. And he said, son, your great-great-granddad used to play this during the Civil War. Okay. It's the first song I ever learned. And he just called it Going Downtown. Well, it's just like this. I'm going on down to Mobile, I'm going on downtown, going on down to Mobile town, lay my Benja down. Papa had a mule, we named him Simon Slick. He never ever learned to plow, but boy, that mule could kick. Boy, that mule could kick. He kicked to his dying breath. He rammed his hind leg down his throat and kicked himself to death. I'm going on down to Mobile, I'm going on downtown, going on down to Mobile town, lay my Benja down. Now, this was apparently 19th century advice to a young man. Don't ever marry an old maid, I'll tell you the reason why. She'll blow her nose on a pone of bread and call it nanner pie. Call it nanner pie, she'll call it nanner pie. She'll blow her nose on a pone of bread, call it nanner pie. I'm going on down to Mobile, I'm going on downtown. Going on down to Mobile town, lay my banjo down. Okay, this is 19th century advice to a young lady. Don't ever marry an old man, I'll tell you the reason why. He'll dribble tobacco down his chin and never button his fly. He'll never button his fly, he'll never button his fly. He'll dribble tobacco down his chin and never button his fly. I'm going on down to Mobile, I'm going on downtown. Going on down to Mobile town, lay my banjo down. Double C, tune in. Dance tunes. Another tune that was actually written in 1863 by Eugene Raymond. You know, by 63, these fellas had been in the field for a long time. And, you know, the odds every day, it looks like we're not going to make it home. I mean, I don't know how in the world we're going to make it home. I mean, the casualties were so severe. So they started singing about home. And this is one of the biggies. This is just an absolutely wonderful Southern tune. Take me home to the place where I first saw the light, to the sweet sunny south, take me home, where the mockingbird sung me to rest every night. Oh, why was I tempted to roam? I think with regret of the dear ones I left, of the warm hearts that sheltered me then, of the wife and the dear ones of whom I'm bereft, and I sigh for the old place again. Take me home to the place where my little ones sleep, poor grandpa's eyes buried close by, or the graves of the loved ones I long for to weep, and among them to rest when I die. Take me home to the place where the orange trees grow, to my cot in the evergreen shade, where the flowers and the river's green margin may grow their sweets on the banks where we played. The path to our cottage, they says, had grown green, and the place is quite lonely around. And I know that the smiles and the forms I have seen now lie deep in the dark mossy ground.
Take me home to the place where my little ones sleep. Old Grandpa lies buried close by, o'er the graves of the loved ones I long for to weep, and among them to rest when I die. Take me home, let me see what is left that I know. Can it be that the old house is gone? The dear friends of my childhood indeed must be few, and I must lament all alone. But yet I'll return to the place of my birth, where my children have played at the door, where they pull the white blossoms that garnish the earth, which will echo their footsteps no more. Take me home to the place where my little ones sleep. Old Grandpa lies buried close by, o'er the graves of the loved ones I long for to weep, and among them to rest when I die. Come, ye sinners, poor and needy, weak and wounded, sick and sore. Jesus ready stands to save you, full of pity, love, and power. He is able, He is able, He is willing, doubt no more. He is able, He is able, He is willing, doubt no more. Let not conscience make you linger, nor of fitness fondly dream. All the fitness He requireth is to feel your need of Him. This He gives you, this He gives you, 'tis the Spirit's rising beam. This He gives you, this He gives you, 'tis the Spirit's rising beam. Agonizing in the garden, lo, your master prostrate lies. On the bloody tree behold Him, hear Him cry before He dies. It is finished, it is finished, sinners, will this not suffice? It is finished, it is finished, sinners, will this not suffice? Lo, the incarnate God ascended, pleads the merit of His blood. Venture on Him, venture wholly, let no other trust intrude. None but Jesus, none but Jesus can do helpless sinners good. None but Jesus, none but Jesus can do helpless sinners good.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, the thing goes on, and they knew, the soldier in the field knew that his odds were not good to get home, and he was never going to see his Polly again. But, you know, they persevered because they were men, you know. And this soldier made this thing up. We don't know who, but it came to us in oral tradition, and I just love it. And this goes out for Brian because he does too.
Oh Polly, it's for your sake alone. I left my dear old father, my country and my home. I left my dear old mother to weep and to mourn. I am a rebel soldier, I'm far from my home. Well, there's grape shot and musket and the cannon lumber loud. There's many a mangled body, the blanket for their shroud. There's many a mangled body left on the field alone. I am a rebel soldier, I'm far from my home. Here's a good old cup of brandy and a glass of nice wine. You can drink to your true love and I will drink to mine. You can drink to your true love and I'll lament and mourn. I am a rebel soldier, I'm far from my home. Well, I'll eat when I'm hungry, I'll drink when I'm dry. If the Yankees don't kill me, I'll live until I die. If the Yankees don't kill me and cause me to mourn, I am a rebel soldier, I'm far from my home. Well, I'll build me a castle on some green mountain high, so I can see Polly as she comes passing by. So I can see Polly and help her to mourn. I am a rebel soldier, I'm far from my home. I am a rebel soldier, I'm far from my home.
What if I do a couple of more? That be about right. Well, I'm from Alabama, and there's a true story, and it's true history. It's real history, and I get to spread this joy around. A lot of people wish I wouldn't, but it's a true story. It did happen in Alabama. Selma, Alabama is a beautiful old southern town. It's on the Alabama River. It's just lovely. During the war, it was very important to the Confederacy because, you see, there were arsenals there. They actually, in Selma, Alabama, made everything that a soldier needed in the field with the exception of food and clothing. They made everything there. Even Seacoast Battery, some of the finest ever made, was made in Selma, I understand, by people that know those things. But they also made gunpowder. Now, gunpowder, the primary working ingredient in gunpowder is actually human waste. It is potassium nitrate, KNO3, also known as saltpeter, more commonly back then called niter, Nitre. Now they have mostly niter is found in caves. In the early part of the war, there's this fellow named John Harrelson. His job was to gather niter. He was a Confederate officer, and he was stationed in Selma gathering niter. And niter is found in niter caves, and there are plenty of caves up and down the Alabama River in that part of the world. And his job was very easy to find this niter to make the gunpowder from. And this went on quite nicely, as you know, he didn't have any trouble fulfilling his requirements. But then the war goes on, and the demand for powder goes up, up, up. And he had to find another source because the caves started playing out. And by 1963, Union cavalry is all over Alabama, cutting him off from sources of potential niter. But he did learn that you can take human waste. Now, not all human waste, but human waste that kids on the playground associate with the number one. Everybody nodding, you're with me? And I found out on the Mississippi Queen steamboat from a chemist that not all number one, female number one, male number one doesn't work. I hope we've learned something here. But he learned this, and so he put out posters, and I've actually seen one of these things up in University of North Alabama. But in essence, the poster said, "Ladies of Selma, please do not throw away the contents of your chamber pots, as we will send wagons around to collect the contents thereof. This for the war effort, signed John Harrelson, CSA, niter agent." And these were put all over town. And somebody thought that was pretty funny, so they made up a poem about John Harrelson and his venture, and that ran in the Selma paper, which even that late in the war was still being printed. And it went over so good that it was followed by another and another and another and another. One of them got put to music, and I would like to share with you the poem that got put to music, and I think it's very appropriately entitled John Harrelson. John Harrelson. John Harrelson, John Harrelson, you are a funny creature. You've given to this cruel war a new and curious feature. You'd have us think while every man was bound to be a fighter. The women, bless the pretty dears, should be put to making nitre. John Harrelson, John Harrelson, how could you get the notion to send your wagons round the town to gather up the lotion? We think the girls do work enough in baking pies and kissing, but you'll now put the pretty dears to patriotic. It rhymes with kissing, but we don't say that word. John Harrelson, John Harrelson, could you not invent a meter or some less immodest mode of making your saltpeter? The thing it is quite queer, you know, gunpowder like the cranky, that when a lady lifts her shift, she shoots another Yankee. You're so wonderful. I want to once again thank Dr. Livingston. Brian, thank you, buddy. And Mike, thanks for the sound and all your efforts. I appreciate it so much. And yes, ma'am.
I'm going to point out something to you that you don't realize.
What's that?
There is a Harrelson in the audience.
There's a what?
A Harrelson.
Really?
Pleasure to make you acquainted.
Sir, I have collected all the latest names, and so if you would take them and, we can make arrangements, okay? You're kidding. I got a letter from his great-great-grandson. I really did. Not everybody's gotten one of those. But, okay, what should I close with? I'm a Good Old Rebel, or Home Sweet Home with Dixie, or Wearing of the Gray? Good Old Rebel, okay. This is an interesting tune. Originally written, the melody was written in during the Gold Rush. As a fella who was a shirker of duty, and anyway, they didn't call him by name but he would get out there and he would but he was so lovable, everybody loved him and let him get away with all kinds of stuff, not having to work hard and this sort of thing. The guy that was actually the future governor of California during the 1870s wrote the song "Old Joe Bowers," and that's what the melody. It was such a popular tune. That's what this song came from. That's the melody of this song. But I read an account of Georgia veterans before the United Confederate Veterans formed officially. They were having after the war. We're having just an informal meeting, come together, sort of a little mini reunion, and Reconstruction was going on, and these fellows weren't pleased. They were kind of bitter at that time. I mean, things came back around, but during that time, somebody got up and sang this song called "I'm a Good Old Rebel." It was actually written by Ennis Randolph. Y'all know that, right? You're nodding yes. I forget I'm preaching to the choir. He was the editorial editor of the Baltimore paper in the post-war period, and he had to write it as probably anonymously where he wouldn't get hung. But anyway, it was about some bitter fellows, some bitter veterans after the war during Reconstruction. Oh, I'm a good old rebel now, that's just what I am. For this fair land of freedom I do not care a damn. I'm glad I fit against it, I only wish we'd won. And I don't want no pardon for anything I done. I hates the Constitution, this great republic too. I hates the Freedman's Bureau in uniforms of blue. I hates that nasty eagle with all his brags and fuss. The lying, thieving Yankees, I hate them worse and worse. I hate the Yankee nation and everything they do. I hates the Declaration of Independence too. I hates that glorious Union, 'tis dripping with our blood. I hates that striped banner, I fitted all I could. I followed old Marse Robert for 4 years near about. Got wounded in 3 places, starved at Pint Lookout. I cotched the rheumatism, camping in the snow. But I killed a chance of Yankees, I'd like to kill some more. 300,000 Yankees is stiff in southern dust. We got 300,000 before they conquered us. They died of southern fever and southern steel and shot. I wish there was 3 million instead of what we got. I can't take up my musket and fight 'em now no more. But I ain't gonna love 'em now, that is certain sure. And I don't want no pardon for what I was and am. I won't be reconstructed, and I don't care a damn. Yeah. Let's do one more. Let's do a veteran tune. Thank you so much. I'm gonna do this. I got to close with this one. This one's hard to do. I get choky on this one, but this was written by veterans for veterans, and when they were getting older. And it's the look back. It is the look back to what all they did. You know, Winston Churchill called them the greatest infantry ever walked the face of the earth. So they had something to be proud of, and they became good Americans eventually, and after Reconstruction ended and all that sort of thing. And but you know, they were such wonderful men. In this song, it just really tells it all. The fearful struggle's ended now, and peace smiles on our land. And though we've yielded, we have proved ourselves a faithful band. We fought them long, we fought them well, we fought them night and day, and bravely struggled for our rights while wearing of the gray. And now that we have ceased to fight and pledged our sacred word, that we against the Union's might no more will draw the sword, we feel, despite the sneers of those who never smelt the fray, that we've a manly, honest right to wearing of the gray. Our cause is lost no more, we fight against overwhelming power. All wearied are our limbs and drenched with many a battle shower. We fain would rest, for want of strength we yield them up the day, and lower the flag so proudly borne while wearing of the gray. Defeat is not dishonor, no of honor not bereft. We should thank God that in our breast this priceless boon is left. And though we weep, 'tis for those braves who stood in proud array beneath our flag and nobly died while wearing of the gray.
When in the ranks of war we stood and faced the deadly hail, our simple suits of gray composed our only coats of mail. And of those awful hours that marked the bloody battle day, in memory we will still be seen a-wearing of the gray. Oh, should we reach that glorious place where wakes the sparkling crown, for everyone who for the right his soldier life laid down. God grant to us the privilege upon that happy day of clasping hands with those who fell a-wearing of the gray.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. You're very kind. Thank you so much.